Welcome back, my wonderful 4th and 5th grade artists. Today we're going to work on drawing a dragon's eye. Now the objective of this lesson is to really focus on value and texture. And a little bit of observational drawing. So you should have been able to look up a reptile's eye. And there are so many different options you can use. I'm not asking that you copy anyone's work. I want you to look at the eye and kind of appropriate and make it your own. So what you're gonna need to start is a pencil, eraser, and something circular. So you can use, I've got tape. You can use a container lid, anything round, anything the shape of a circle. So the paper I'm using is 9 inches by 12, and we're gonna use the entire paper to create the dragon's eye and the kind of reptile texture around it. So I'm gonna place my circle in the middle. Now I want you to think about the eye is actually a sphere, and the shape that goes around it that creates the eyelid gives it that oblong football lemon shape. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to trace the outside of this. So I have a general idea of what the center of my eye, how big it's going to be. Make sure you're drawing light till you know you've got it right, and then you can erase any extra stuff that you have. So from here, I'm going to create the eyelids. That gives me the general shape of the eye. So if you want, it can be pretty simple and just go up and over like this. So that's a good start. But what you also might want to think about doing is maybe creating some other lines that maybe make this a little smaller, but also give it a little creativity and uniqueness. All right. So here we have the dragon's eye. We've got an upper lid and almost like a lower lid. So what I'm gonna do is give this part, make my upper lid a little bigger. Inside the dragon's eye, they have a pupil. Now there are lots of different choices that you can do. You can do a round pupil. Some of them have like a vertical pupil that kind of comes around like this. You can get creative with it. Some of the examples I've seen have had almost like Then you want to decide on texture. Textures for the dragon, and for any reptile really, vary. Most of the textures are created through patterns. So you can do, some of the patterns are just circles, some of them are squares, some of them are both. You don't want to make them too small because that's going to take you forever to color. You can vary your patterns, and maybe the smaller the shapes that you use would be, the smaller shapes you use would be closest to the eye, and then they might be larger around the eye itself. So I've got some of these spots I didn't cover very well. I want to keep those patterns kind of tight and close together, so maybe I'll add some more. And then maybe for the under eye, I'm gonna add more rectangular patterns. Patterns like rectangular shapes for scales. It seems a lot more elaborate than it really is. It's just a bunch of different shapes, and just kind of put them together, make them smaller the closer to the eye and larger the farther away they get from the eye. For the eye itself, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use orange. So I'm just going to get together as many oranges, orange colors that I can find. May even use some markers and some yellow, just because I love to blend colors, and then we're gonna need to add some value. So I'm gonna need a black. All right, so the eye itself, the pupil here is gonna be black, but I wanna make sure I leave some highlights. And if you remember, highlights are those white hot spots where the light directly hits an object, and it reflects back just the light. So I'm gonna leave some area with just white. So I'm gonna start with my yellows, and remember, when you're coloring with colored pencil or crayons, there's a couple different ways you can get your colors to be more vibrant or darker. If you press real hard with your colored pencil, it's gonna give you an immediate dark color, but it's also gonna wear down your pencil. So what you could do, another possibility, is to color in layers. So I would start with this really light yellow, like this, and then I'd blend it by adding a second layer of color on top of that. One thing I want to show you, I started coloring a little darker where the eyelids would create like a little bit of a shadow. Now it looks pretty decent like this. Now I'm going to show you, if you color in the direction or the shape that that maybe the eye is, so that rounded shape, it's gonna create an even better illusion that the eye is round. So if I color in a rounded motion like this, and I make, even if I just do the bottoms a little rounded like this, and then I go back and I do the top a little more, I'm using a different orange than the one I was just using, because it's a slightly more, it has a little more yellow. So if I'm coloring in this rounded arched kind of way, it's gonna further communicate to the viewer. So for the pupil, all I did was make sure the top and the bottom corners are really dark, and then I blended from really dark to light, kind of in the center. And that's gonna create another hot spot right on the pupil. For the scales, I'm actually gonna use a thin marker, and I'm gonna kind of trace the inside of my patterns between my shapes. I'm gonna color it with this green. Now I have a lot, and I maybe should have done some areas that I probably should have done some bigger textures, or I could have done a smaller paper. So I'm gonna stop with that, and I'm gonna just show you how we can color the scales using value. Now I'm gonna focus in here to a smaller area and just do the scales, and I'm gonna blend them from a purple color to a blue. Like a reddish purple, that's what I need. Okay, so I've got this purplish color. And what I want to do is, it's really dark, and I'm going to need I'm going to use three colors. I'm going to use this color, which is almost like a plum. Then I'm going to use a magenta or a pink. And then I'm going to use a blue. So I don't necessarily have a magenta right here, but I have a strawberry, and I'm going to use the royal, nope, I'm going to use the bubble blue. Okay, so here's my three colors. So I'm going to blend from this to this to that. So making sure my darkest color is closest to the Sharpie, and then from there I'm going to blend. Blending means you're mixing two colors, so I'm coloring kind of light. So I color dark and then I get lighter, so it's really faint. It's a very light value. Think about the direction in which you're coloring your lines. You should have values in lights, mediums, darks. You can blend colors, and oh, texture. Yeah, make sure that you've got lots of textures for your dragon's eye. Get creative with the pupil if you want. But make sure you are looking through, even get online and Google dragon's eye, and it'll give you a bunch of different textures or reptiles' eyes. Those should help too. Okay. All right, well, have fun, and don't forget to post your image on Flipgrid, and we can't wait to see what you come up with.